Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'd like to talk about the transit of Pluto. And for the most part, once again, let me say, in Vedic astrology, we traditionally don't use the outer planets, particularly in terms of rulership. We only use the 7 planets visible to the naked eye in terms of rulership. But this planet has major effects in a birth chart, particularly if it's tightly conjunct natal planets. And as it transits through the chart and conjuncts natal planets, look out, you're going to have quite an experience. Pluto is the planet that gives great and huge transformations. And I know scientists or astronomers say it's been downgraded from a planet to a planetoid or whatever. Astrologers all know from experience this planet has an effect. And I think really all of the comments, anything that comes relative into our sphere or into where we can see out, it affects us. Let me explain about Pluto. Now, Pluto is, of course, the furthest out, the most distant, and Pluto takes about, at this point in time, about 12 years to 14 years, because it is traveling about the same as Neptune right now. But because it has an elliptical orbit, the closer it is to the Earth, to the Sun, that means the shorter time that it stays in a sign. And right now it's closest to the Sun. Or it was probably, I'd have to say, in the late 90s. It actually went within the orbit of Neptune. So Pluto stays in a sign approximately, takes approximately 245 years to go through the entire zodiac, all 12 signs. But at this point in time, it stays in a sign about 14 years. But I'll say this, not only does it stay, it can stay an average, because remember, it's like an egg, an elliptical orbit. Once it goes way out, away from the Sun and Earth, then it stays in a sign a lot longer. It moves slower. So it will stay in a sign, the average, if you take the whole cycle, around 21 years it stays in a sign. But right now, that's the average. Right now it's about, 12 to 14 years. But this planet is heavy because when it was discovered, this was the time that they discovered atomic energy. So it was in the 30s that this planet was discovered. I want to say that planet Pluto was discovered in 1930. And that was the time that the mafia was going strong. All of the mafia killings, Chicago. It was a time when dictators really ruled the world, such as Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, all of this dictatorship. So that's what Pluto's about. It's about control. It's about manipulation. It's about power. And those of you that are into the Vedic thought and astrology and have not a clue of what Pluto really means, just take every definition you know of the 8th house and you can assign it to Pluto, and you already know what it means. Because it does deal with control, manipulation, and power. And it deals with the dark, seedy side of this world. But as I call it, it is the planet that deals with change, with death. You know, in Greek mythology, Pluto is assigned to the planet Pluto, which is the god Pluto, or Hades, of the underworld, death. So Pluto can create major shifts and changes, the biggest changes we make in our life. And what is one of the biggest changes in this life is birth and death. They are ruled by Pluto. The beginnings and the end. So Pluto in Western astrology is assigned to the sign Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about that energy, that something as the phoenix dies to the ashes and is reborn. So that's what Pluto can deal with: rebirth, transformation, major changes that we have to go through. We go through many deaths in our life. It's not just that major ending, but we go through all these major shifts. And every time we do, it is extremely painful. Pluto is painful. I say it's gut-wrenching. When Pluto is transiting over one of your personal planets, it is so deep. It is so transformational. I mean, you feel like throwing up. It's like everything comes up with Pluto. It's dark. But here's what I know to be true about Pluto. You may think it's the worst thing in the world that's happening to you, but I guarantee you, 2 or 3 years down the road, you'll look back at the experience. And this is a guarantee. You'll look back at the experience and you'll say, thank God that happened, because I couldn't be who I am or where I am if I hadn't gone through that major, major transformational change in my life. So remember, those kind of changes are never ever easy. They're like a birth and a death. That's what Pluto rules. And so when Pluto transits, it's very psychological. It gets a hold of you psychologically. You're like going through all these deep, deep understandings. Remember, the 8th house does deal with psychology. And this is what we have to come to terms with. Who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it. These changes in consciousness and awareness happen with this planet. So when it transits in the 1st house, you're going through the biggest transformation and change. And I've actually seen when it conjuncts the ascendant, people go through a physical change. They look different. Major shifts and changes. So when it goes through the 2nd house, it's going to have its effects on your financial situation, and it can bring some major shifts. It is power. It can bring some major gains. So Pluto many times has been likened to the higher octave of Mars too, because it's so explosive and big. As it goes through your 3rd house, many shifts and changes in accordance to what you're learning, what you're doing, and maybe even some changes with your relationship with your brothers and sisters. You may cut them off. You may go through a major shift with them. Endings. As Pluto transits through your 4th house, it will change anything to do with your environment, your home, your family, and there could be deaths around the family, but it's there for a really long time, so it's a process. So when it transits in the 5th house, major shifts and changes in your mind, in your creative mind, and it could bring children, or children could leave the house. It could be an empty nester, but one way or another. Remember, it's a planet of deep, deep transformation. So when it goes through the 6th house, be careful of your health. There could be some things that come up that are very difficult to overcome with health. But I will say this, when it transits through the 6th house, this would be the time that possibly you could overcome some of those really bad habits that were impossible to change beforehand. So Pluto going through the 7th house, your partner's changing. There is a major shift, transformation, and it could represent endings. If your partner doesn't make the transformation, then it may have to end. But remember what I said, it could be the best thing that's happening to you. You just don't realize it. So let me say that Pluto gives blessings in disguise. You think it's the worst thing happening to you at the time, and it's actually the best. Because let me say this about Pluto. It will eliminate anything in the house that this house pertains to, any of the houses. It will eliminate anything that is not growth producing. So anything that's holding you back, not growth producing, Pluto will eliminate. And you're probably thinking it's the worst thing in the world, but it's the best thing. So Pluto, as it transits your 8th house, this can deal with your financial matters. This can bring deaths, inheritances, because it's going to bring this major change of people around you and your world and how you perceive things. And it could even be your own death. But remember, this is a long entailed process. As Pluto transits your 9th house, the way you view the world spiritually, your truths, what you believe will change. And that will go through a major shift and transformation. It could be the long and demise of the father as it transits the 9th house. As it transits the 10th house, your job, your position, your work, something about it will change. Remember, wherever it is creates radical changes. But it's such a slow process. It's not like it hits you like a lightning bolt. It's a process. It's a process, always. That's Pluto. So as it goes through the 11th house, the people you hang out with, they're going to shift and change. You've outgrown many relationships, as well as your goals and aspirations in your life change. It could be the demise or the end of your relationship with the eldest sibling. And as it transits the 12th house, this is the wrapping up, the change, coming to the realization of many things that must and will end in your life. Retirement, maybe from that old job, but something has to come to completion. And Pluto, by and large, will definitely make that change happen. So once again, then it will come across into the 1st house. But chances are we will only live to the extent of where Pluto comes to a 4th of the chart, or yes, about 4 houses, because let's just consider 4 to 5 houses if we live to a ripe old age. But Pluto is the transformer. And currently, as I'm looking at the transit of Pluto, it is in the sign of Sagittarius as I speak in the year of 2018. By the year of 2020, it will shift into Capricorn. This is relative to the sidereal Vedic astrology I'm using, not the Western tropical, but you will see as Pluto shifts signs, according to the sidereal chart, how the world shifts and changes. This is the year of 2020. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information about me, or you would like a reading, you can always go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. Or if you would like to learn Vedic astrology, go to my university, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.